Amazing. Perfect. Did not lose anyone in transit. I love it. All right. Well, to our attendees out there, thank you for showing up and dialing in. Really appreciate it. So my name is Stephanie. I'm one of the organizers of Startup Week for our year number 5. It is a volunteer-driven event, so thank you so much for tuning in. Just a couple quick housekeeping items, and I'm sure you guys don't necessarily want to hear from me because if you've been here all day, you've heard this 10 times or something already. But basically, first and foremost, the chat to the right sidebar, please feel free to use that. That's going to be your place to, network. Yes, Susan, thank you for posting. Perfect. But that's going to be your place to network and, meet new people. That's one of the main reasons why we do this week is so that you guys can network, make new connections. So drop your LinkedIn, tell people who you're looking to meet. Maybe you'll make some new friends. Maybe you'll meet a potential customer, which will be ironic for this panel. It will be a good time. The other thing that's super important for this is you're going to see that Q&A tab all the way over to the right sidebar. That is going to be your best friend for this panel. Okay? These people are super smart. You should definitely put them on the spot. Ask them all of your questions. Literally all of them. If you got something, about, how to build a great sales team and you're like, I just need someone to really answer this for me because it's a struggle. This is your time. It's one of the main reasons why we all organize Startup Week is to answer your questions. So definitely use that Q&A tab over to the right. I feel like I was supposed to say something else. Oh, agenda at the top. If you are not here to listen to sales, and you're like, Stephanie, this is not what I'm here for. I'm either looking to learn more about building a startup while in school or about a product and design team tricks. Click agenda at the top, scroll down, and join one of those events because this is going to be all about sales. All right. Well, I'm going to stop. I'm going to turn this over to the awesome John Houston, and he's going to take it from here. So have a good one, guys. And thanks, John.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today and good afternoon. So my name is John Houston. I'm a current senior at Boston College studying entrepreneurship and marketing. And I was lucky enough to be the moderator for today's panel. I'm going to pass the mic off to Amal to begin introductions, give a little bit of background.
Sure. Thanks, John. So Amal Williams, I'm a partner at a company called Reveal Group. We focus on intelligent process automation and transformation for large Fortune 500s. Our core products are around RPA. Our adjacent products are cognitive technology and artificial intelligence. So things like chatbots, facial recognition, etc. We help companies save money and we help them expand their operations affordably.
And then I'll pass the mic off there to Swansea. You can introduce yourself, give a little bit of background.
Hi, everyone. Good to meet you. Good to see everyone. I hope that I'll be able to meet some of you face to face. With me with LinkedIn after. So I am co-founder and CRO of a company called Koala.io. We are a platform for customer success teams so they can be smarter and faster on serving, retaining, and upselling their customer base. Something that makes us a little bit unique from many of our competitors out there is we combine frontline insights from teams in the trenches with usage data to provide a complete view of customer health. Goldcast and Crayon are some of our proud customers that we love working with. So it's amazing to be able to speak alongside them. Thanks, John. And also serve them and be a part of this amazing event. I can't believe it's volunteer-led. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to participate and to learn from all of my fellow panelists.
And then, Swazi, you just popcorn off. We can do the rest of the
amazing.
Right into it.
Okay. Let's go to John then.
Swazi, thank you. Happy to be a customer. My name is John Judge. I work for a company called Crayon. And don't let the whimsical name fool you. What we do is competitive intelligence. So if you think about how large organizations and even medium-sized organizations have conducted competitive intelligence to help them grow market share and win business, it's been arcane for decades. It's people-driven. It's typically on PowerPoint or it winds up in a wiki. And it never gets into the hands of people who need it so that they can potentially win a competitive deal or grow their company's market share. We have a SaaS-based platform that does that. It is super cool. We're growing like crazy because we're flipping the script on this whole business model. And Santi, I'm just like you. I am thrilled to be here and hope I can add some value with these great panelists. And I guess I'm Emmanuel. You're up, man. You're the last guy.
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone. My name is Emmanuel, founder of Onye. Onye is a digital healthcare solution for healthcare providers in emerging markets. We're building an electronic health record system for doctors in Nigeria. So we're very early stage. We're planning to deploy our solution end of next month, beginning of November. And thank you for having me.
Well, fantastic. Now that we've got introductions and background out of the way, let's jump right into the panel. So the way we divided it up today was into 3 separate chunks, and with each separate chunk, we'll start with a poll. So the first poll we're going to start with is really asking some of the common challenges that a lot of people find when they don't have a pre-sales team. Right? Did that poll launch? I hope so.
Yep.
There it is.
It's a good question.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks like we're getting a lot of answers focusing on finding proper leads and then customer discovery, which is perfect for our first question. So, John, I'm going to start with you. So what are some of the key signs that you need a pre-sales team, and what's the overall effect of having a strong BDR team?
Oh, man. Well, one of the things I've learned is as your selling engine gets better, those individuals like to do demonstrations, they like to close deals, they like to go make money, and they kind of forget how to go out, or they don't like to go out and prospect as aggressively as they used to. I think a solid SDR or BDR team is essential for a couple of reasons. One is that kind of myopic focus on your inbound leads, maybe your top of funnel inbound leads. I've found BDR teams know how to get after those at a significantly more aggressive rate and convert them at a higher rate than if you sent them out to the floor. The other thing you can go do is they help your sales executives target companies. So with the help of LinkedIn Nav and all the other tools that are out there, one of my sales executives goes out there and says, hey, we got to get into this account. Go get it. And they'll find all the contacts, and that SDR and that BDR will get after it. Last thing I'll say about having a great BDR team, it's your bench for your future sales organization. Nobody went to college to become a BDR. They want to get into tech sales. They want to go make money. They want to have fun doing it. But their way in the door is learning the hard part of the business, and it's driving all kinds of quality opportunities out to your sales organization.
Oh, well, fantastic. And also, so how do you see this team aligning with nurture marketing? How do they go about creating a well-structured business instrumentation plan?
So I think, and especially now, given that we're on, Zoom or God knows what else we're on, Slack and everything else to run our business, it's imperative to have a really well instrumented business. And what I mean by that is everyone's got visibility. What are the key conversion metrics? How many leads do you need to turn into opportunities into demos into deals? And how can you produce that so it's visible to everyone? Because for example, for us on the training side, we tend not to do group training anymore. We basically go in and do micro-focus training on, hey, we're struggling a little bit with these 3 individuals on converting demos to deals. Hey, let's go get the person who's the best on our team to go do that. So creating that kind of instrumentation gives everyone visibility, increases transparency. But the thing I like about it is it turns the I think, I wish into I know, and you can have fact-based conversations with individuals on how you can help them advance their careers and improve in their craft.
So now, Sansi, I'm going to direct this one towards you. For an early stage startup, why would delaying forming a pre-sales team cost you? And what can be the effect of that delay?
Sure. It's a great question. Just to build on something that John said, I really like the idea of a well-instrumented team. You can have that whether you're just one person at an early stage startup in a pre-sales team, or if you are at a highly evolved or mature team and you have many people on that team. As an early stage startup founder, you really have one goal, and that's to not run out of money. It's literally a race against the clock, but not just from a runway perspective, of course, or an investment perspective, but also the market dictates the velocity of how quickly you have to move. If you're in a very competitive space, and many of us are, you have to work so quickly. And one of the values of having some sort of pre-sales team, and I say team, but sometimes it's just one person, especially given the stage of the company if you're early, having someone that's dedicated to understanding the different points that are needed in order to increase velocity through the pipeline can be transformational for any business, and of course, transformational for a startup.
So if you're an early stage startup whose end users are small to medium-sized businesses, what do you view as really effective customer acquisition channels for them? So in this specific case, zero interest credit cards to small businesses, what do you think would be a good way to find your end users?
It's, of course, I hate answering a question with "it depends," but wherever they are spending most of their time, you'll want to meet them there instead of trying to bring them onto any other platform and environment. Just meet them where they are. For us, a lot of our customers or potential buyers are on LinkedIn, so we spend a lot of our time on LinkedIn. Marketing to them, having one-on-one direct conversations, messaging them, connecting with them, serving up ads, serving up content on our page. We're very personal in our outreach. So I would say find where they are engaging already. Maybe that's not LinkedIn. Maybe they're mostly on their email or mostly answering messages via email. Maybe that's cold calling. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. If you have a lot of institutional knowledge, you've been in the field or in this market for a long time, you likely already have a gut sense because you know where you spend your time. Otherwise, ask around, test out different channels, and you'll very quickly soon find where they are and how to reach them.
So now, Amal, I'm going to transition to you. What are some of the critical roles a pre-sales team might have, and why are those so important?
So all my answers are going to have this delineation between the first $10 million of the company and then north of $10 million of average recurring revenue. So under $10 million, your best salespeople are your executives. The co-founders know the story. They understand why they left. They understand the first customer who they served. It's very hard to replicate that level of storytelling and customer-facing credibility when you're doing sales. So what does everybody else complain about? I can't find the staff. I can't find the talent. You have to, for the lack of a better descriptor, harvest their organs. And you have to capture all of those stories, and you have to include them in the onboard training. So one of my favorite exercises, it's a crucible of method acting. You have to pitch people internally until we believe that you work for our company. And the reason why that I see you, sis, I appreciate you. When a co-founder gets on the call, they could say exactly what you said, right? But the customer knows that you're telling a story about a place that you heard about. You've never been there before. So how do I build trust in my storytelling? And for me, I was fortunate. I'm a partner now because I was mentored by partners at a startup that was 10 million ARR. My footprint now is 21 to 40 million, but I could not do this without doing that. So my credibility, when I tell my origin story, I tell them about my very first customer. Now, folks who aren't savvy, you're gonna be like, I'm talking about oil and gas, but I'm doing retail. If you're comfortable with understanding the use case, and when you talk about robotics, our most basic use case is data processing, literally Control C, Control V. So anywhere in your organization, when you sort your spreadsheet, now I serve Fortune 5s, right? Where is the most repetitive processing? Where is the most amount of churn? Where is it hard for you to acquire talent? You have to have the symptoms of my best customer. And then also you have to be brave enough to say, hey, guess what? You don't look like or sound like anybody else I've ever seen before in my life. It might not make sense for us to work together. That's the favorite part of my job now. I say, hey, you know what? Doesn't make sense. So under 10 million, you have to harvest the organs of the co-founders. You have to sit in on those meetings as a sales rep. You have to sit in on those partner calls. When I went into MIT to sell a story a long time ago, I had to tell a story that started in 2004 and ended in 2018 at a very surface level. Above 10 million in ARR, you have to take your customer success stories and map those to your existing customers' pain point when they show up on the website, when they show up at the trade show, or wherever they are. So it's still a multi-channel approach, but your storytelling has to be really, really, really on point. Tenured reps will say this is all I do. This is the only people that we serve. These are my references. Here's why I think that we can be successful together. If this is not your appetite, let me call you back in 6 to 8 months. That's hard to do if you don't have any revenue because, right, your life is on. But the tenured reps who have $1 million, $2 million in their book of business, they come in with their top 25, and then we sick the SDRs on them. They use their partners as well, and then they do greenfield storytelling at that core 25. Like my favorite new rep, Julie, she was only selling to Wells Fargo. Guess what she talks about ad nauseum? Wells Fargo's business. Guess who she tells it to? The 24 banks that they compete with. So under 10 million ARR, you literally have to be a method actor. What's that movie there? Talented Mr. Ripley. Almost that creepy, right? And then what you do once they're on the line, right? It's always like, I colored my beard today, so I colored my grays. I look kind of young. Me and the co-founder, we both colored our grays that day. We were selling a company whose name I won't mention. And I go, Bobby, yes, you colored your hair. I'm like, yeah, I colored my beard, dude. It's pretty bad. I'm like, get Steve. He's gray. Steve, come here and say what we said, but say it to these guys. We have a new customer. Again, I'm being kind of fanciful there, but sometimes it's that level of personalization because we as individual consumers outside of our day jobs, we're used to buying from certain people, right? And as sellers, we're actually used to selling to certain kinds of people. So very long way of saying it, but all I'm saying is that the first 10 million, that's usually the founders. I have to wean them off and say, hey, go manage product. Hey, go manage our pipeline forward and trust these AEs to come in. But we got to be savages in the first 90 days because if the sales reps don't have confidence on the call, guess what? If they don't believe in it, guess who's not going to believe in it to buy it? Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Now, Emmanuel, so how many people is too many to have on this team? Is there a set limit? What do you think from your experience?
Like, honestly, I can't give you an exact number, to be honest. From my experience of just doing my own stuff, so we're a really small company, operational in Nigeria. So we've got about 3 sales people on the team. So one is a pre-sale, the other is more of the closer, and the third is more of a customer success. So for us, the 3 major different stages. We need a pre-sale person out there just qualifying leads and having the conversation and figuring out how to better tell the story down the sales funnel. So really to help the people further down the line to really pitch and close the client. So I honestly don't have a number for you. Like I can say for us, we have about 3 people.
All right. So I guess it probably depends on like the size of the firm and where your annual revenue would be to really decide on how many is too many and how many is too few. So transitioning to our next chunk, we're going to start with our next poll, and so we're going to provide you with a list. So which qualities do you look for most when you're hiring, and then select all apply.
I actually love that experience isn't getting a lot of votes because that resonates with me. That resonates with me.
Overrated.
Yeah, right. Oh man.
I feel like we must have a lot of startup founders or team members in here because adaptability just seems like tailor-made for that group.
And John and all of his classmates are getting in here and saying, "Don't play up experience, man." I'm just kidding.
Funny.
I feel everybody to downvote that one. All right. Well, we've gotten some great responses, so I'm going to unpublish this poll. And moving forward, so John, who do you believe the right people are to be on the pre-sales versus product versus post-sales teams?
So it depends on which pre-sale role we're talking about. So I mentioned earlier for the BDR, SDR role, you're looking for people who want to be sales individuals, sales professionals within your organization. So you're looking for that level of acumen, grit, drive, willingness to learn, willingness to get kicked around and all that other good stuff. but also that teaming element as well, because they're going to be partnered up with adults in the room, so to speak, with their AEs and that sort of thing. So, what we look for in a BDR, we're not looking for a lot of experience. We're looking for someone who's a recent graduate from college, or has maybe had their first job, and they've demonstrated an ability to fail forward. They have demonstrated an ability to grind through something hard. So maybe they were a student athlete, or maybe they held a job while they were at school to help pay for school. I love hearing stories of, hey, I'm in debt. I need to pay off my education. It's a sad story, but it means they've got grit and they've got drive and all of that. Flip the record and you talk about your solution or sales engineers, and that's a completely different story. You need experience there. You need people who can code. You need people who can really understand the customer's life cycle, not just to help sell, but understand what the experience of the usage of your product is going to be like. So they're married to your customer success organization and they understand what's going on inside there. You need those folks to be really married to the idea of ideal customer profile and negative churn. Because the last thing you want your sales engineers to do is be one of those people that are driving customers in the door that are not a good fit. Because then they churn out, and that is the next to running out of cash, or for an organization that's north of $10 million, churn is the leaky bucket that kills SaaS companies faster than anything. So you want that sales engineer to be wired into the customer experience, not just the buying experience, but the customer life cycle as well. So those are a couple examples, John, but I could go on for hours on this one.
Right, 100%. So now, how do you think communication can really improve between these different teams, and how essential is that to ensuring a successful sales process from pre to post?
So I think, again, I talked about ideal customer profile, and that was more on the sales engineering side. You need your whole organization to understand that. Like, this is who we want to go chase down with cold calls, what our marketing department wants to go get with inbound, so that we're bringing in the people that we know are going to be great fit customers. They're going to be happy. They're going to pay us more money. They're going to stay long. They're going to do all that other stuff. So you've got your BDR pre-sales teams wired into what that customer experience is like. I love Amal's conversation about, you're either telling the story or you're telling somebody else's story. BDRs have got to get really good at telling somebody else's story, because they don't have any stories to tell yet. So, but customers, prospects love to hear, hey, you know what, Amal, you're going to be a perfect fit customer for us because we've got a lot of people like you already in the door, and here's why they're happy, and here's some case studies I can go send you. So your BDRs are wired into that whole marketing journey a little bit more. And I think your sales engineers, as I mentioned earlier, are really wired into that customer success story. Everybody's wired into product, because at SaaS companies, we've hopefully are working for an organization that's churning out new features and new products and all kinds of new stuff. And everybody's got to be snapped to attention on what's the value that brings, how does my story change this week versus last week, and what's that customer journey potentially going to go look like.
Fantastic. So now, Amal, what could go wrong if these if teams, the whole organization, isn't aligned, and how can that negatively impact your overall profitability?
When I was 32, I would have started naming brands in Boston, but I'm not going to do that because I'm 42. I'm like, oh, let's choose a brand. Sourcing. Okay, so my three best BDR sources in Boston are Babson College, Northeastern, and actually not in Boston. I apologize. The third one is West Virginia undergrad. I used to actually, John, you're going to love this. You don't have to do this. I'm not recommending it for you. We used to take those speaker phones. I got a little puck here on my desk. When the new hires, when I was a startup, we got acquired by Hootsuite. I forget how long ago. I'm 3 out of 5 when it comes to startups from an acquisition standpoint. So I'll spare you the other two. But the three that worked, we sat around and I put myself in the crosshairs, right? So I didn't tell them what I wanted them to do. I sat there round robin, Phil Fabio, Josh Raymond, Alex and Eric, and then myself. And we all cold called one at a time on this speakerphone using our cell phones. So guess what? I was up a couple times, right? So I see a couple of my friends just like power through the process, being like, I'm going to need the contact number for the budget holder. I'm like, whoa, hey, listen, that works, but don't do that, right? Right? I'm like, oh my God, he's actually a CEO now, funny as it would be. The other guys were a little more pragmatic in their approach, and I got somebody who I sold to before, so I kind of got lucky. So I asked kind of different questions. But I would tell you, one of the ways that you build trust is by doing, right? So in my charter, in my last contract that I signed, I have to walk the talk, not just from an SE perspective, right? So I have my technical certificates, but I also have to have my monetization credentials as well. So at the BDR, SDR level, if we're staying there from a let's get a qualified prospect into the funnel, my perspective is it's the most important thing that I outsource. So every time I build a business development budget, it's a line item. I will fight you. I will throw a professional executive tantrum if we don't have it across our 3 core products. If you have to build it yourself, where you fail is during the interview process. Don't just hire somebody who's smart, because I believe that intellectual rigor is a part of the job. You want to hire somebody, to John's point, who wants to matriculate through the company. So my goal is, personally, I want to be an expert professionally at corporate storytelling and value propositioning, because that's part of the story. You need to understand how to manage the commercials of your business. So not just what your business does, but how it actually does that. When you are able to have business conversations with professionals, it's easier for you to do your job. When you talk to somebody smart like Sansi, again, y'all are smart too, but if you put a solid idea in front of a smart person, they will help you try to figure it out. If you put that same idea in front of somebody who is disgruntled or bewildered or is not motivated to solve this problem, you'll have the worst cold call of your life. So where does it fall apart? Your reps fall apart when all they do is basically replicate the marketing email spam exercise. That's not a balanced organization. People have $350 million worth of marketing in their inbox. Please don't do that. If you want to be a professional and polite stalker, please attend the content direct marketing campaigns of your customers so that you can have an informed discussion. If they bring partners to that call, please attend those events as well. You should be training, I would say, 4 hours out of your day, because like in 25, let me see, I can do 25 dials in an hour, right? If those calls are cold, John, what's my conversion rate if it's a cold call? In an hour, how many did I get? 1, maybe
5%.
Right, maybe, right? The old school metric was 121 dials to get 1 SQL. That's exhausting. So what you really need to do, to me, is we don't give them 150 or 200 prospects. People cannot process information at that clip. We give them 25 or 50 prospects. If you guys have 6 Sense in your CRM, or if you have some other kind of tool, John, sorry, that's the last one I used. I apologize. Y'all's is great too. But if you have some kind of market intelligence, please use it, right? Use the intent. I hate to use old things like BANT, right? But let's assume the budget if the company's the right size and they're not under duress like the hospitality industry, right? Let's assume that we have the right business card information in our database, right? The need, this is what we're selling. Why do we need to have a commercial conversation? Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, people that look like you and sound like you guys should talk to us. Here's why, very specifically. When it falls apart, it's when you have somebody who's intellectually, who is smart, but is not curious, and they're misaligned. Like, you know who doesn't want to be there. And again, this is not a slight against that person. I've seen plenty of BDRs and SDRs move into other functions at other companies and thrive. So I want to try to, hopefully we can get rid of that kind of an element too, because that exhausts me. But if you have the right kind of person, they're curious, right? They're curious, they're motivated to be matriculated, and they're also very, very serious about owning their number. They don't make excuses for why it didn't happen. If I give you 100 contacts, give me the disposition of that database. Sorry, I was too long there. I apologize.
Wow.
My bad. Did I do that?
All
No,
good.
that's okay. But that is the next question I was going to ask, so that's perfect. Emmanuel, let's see if I can minimize that.
There we go.
Oh, well, Emmanuel, so in early stage startups, how do you motivate the sales team to present the product as if the co-founders would present it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what actually has worked is finding someone who's very passionate about the healthcare space, especially in Nigeria, and fixing the story and the narrative. I would really agree with everything that's been said so far. Adaptability is great. You need someone who can actually shift gear when the conversation is somewhat going south. Someone who's very intellectual, that's part of the actual requirement, because we need people who can actually think beyond just having a conversation. Someone who can take the potential customer through a story, someone who can communicate properly. So it all, for me, one, intellect is a default. What I didn't see here, but can also be grouped, is personality. So someone's personality can be adaptable, but someone who's really friendly and can actually have conversations. If I'm having a conversation with, I had a situation where one of my potential pre-sales team, he was very one-on-one conversation was great. 2-3 weeks of his performance, I couldn't rectify the actual issue. He wasn't doing very well on the field, but one-on-one conversation, he was actually great. But when I later found out that his personality to talk to strangers, he couldn't do it. So for me, personality is key, curiosity and adaptability. Intellect is actually the default. He needs to have, or she needs to have that.
All right, fantastic. So, Emmanuel, can you talk about the metrics and the systems that you have set up at Onya? What works, what doesn't, and how do you identify processes that are effective?
Yeah, and metrics, our top 2 metrics are yeses and nos. How many doctors are telling us yes? How many doctors are telling us no? Because we don't want to waste our time having this long conversation with physicians. We want to know right from the bat, are you interested in this particular solution? If not, who else would you recommend, or who else should we speak to? So for us, it's just that simple, yes or no. How we get those numbers, we go through professional association meetings, we go to on sales, direct sales to the hospitals to just get that information, because we're very lean and we don't want to waste time, because time is money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Sansi, do you believe that we already touched on this a little bit, but do you believe there's a need to consider metrics beyond new sales dollars? So, for example, turning away prospective customers that just aren't really a good fit for you.
Yeah, sure. This is a tough one, but the crisp answer is absolutely. On top of new sales dollars, of course, or new revenue, we're really focused on net revenue retention, and that is taking a look at churn and growth metrics within the organization. You definitely don't want to be churning and burning customers. It's tough for early stage because you want to sign any customer really at any cost, because revenue is such an important indicator of the overall potential of your business. But at the end of the day, I always say there are 2 things that are valuable. It's knowledge and or money in the bank. Even if you work with a customer and maybe that customer churns, hopefully you learned something from that experience, or maybe you have a prospect that doesn't actually turn into a customer. If you can't get money out of them, make sure you're getting knowledge, and that knowledge, use that knowledge to power and create a better business that will maybe serve a boomerang. Maybe they come back and you've earned their trust and won the opportunity to work with them later down the line. Of course, we've turned away business in the past, not just at Koala, but at some of the previous companies that I've had the pleasure of co-founding. It is a very tough thing to do. I will say that in the beginning, when you haven't really solidified your ICP or your ideal customer profile, that is the buyer or teams that you're looking to serve, that you feel like you can do your best work and create the best product for. When you haven't identified what that core group is, you're going to be going after a lot of opportunities, and you're not going to be sure maybe if they're best fits for you or not. So there could be a lot of didn't do that too well. Now we learned moving forward. As you continue your journey, you're going to discover who that ICP is, how exactly you can find them, how you want to serve them, what their values are, at what velocity, and how you enter it to the picture. And as you do that, you're going to be turning away less and less business, and you're going to be building that knowledge and also, of course, building money in the bank. So that's how I look at that. So short answer is absolutely there are other metrics. There's a reason why other metrics are important, and it's a tough balance, but you want to be looking at, of course, new sales, and also what does the net revenue retention look like for your business.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much. So transitioning to our third and final chunk of today's panel. So we're going to talk about what are the roles of the pre-sales team. And starting with our poll, we're going to ask, what do you believe the most essential role of your pre-sales team is?
John, you're going to say pitch crafting and proposal, right? There we go.
I wish I could vote for more than one.
I know.
I mean, your discovery is such an essential, like, I don't know, discovery is just massively important. I mean, all these matter, but qualifying out and then discovery questions that lead to proposal, that's massive.
Mm-hmm.
I am 100% with you. We literally just spent the last week in our organization just going, we got to tighten down the screws on discovery, because you get discovery right, everything moves so much better. You get discovery wrong, and at the end of the sales cycle, you get the, I don't know who to
Right?
Can we talk about for a second why that's so important? Because I don't want this thought to get lost here with anyone, and maybe we're preaching to the choir, but all of us, no matter what stage we are as a company, we're looking for not the exceptions, but the rule. And this idea of discovery is our process of how do we look for the rules? Because we only have so much time, so much money in the bank, so many resources, it's all finite. So looking for the rules helps us save time. And then just we waive the exceptions because we only have so many arrows in our quiver.
Right.
John, you want to go first, or Sansi, do you want to offer something, or you want me to speak? Who wants to speak here?
That was my offering.
Oh, okay.
So,
go, John. You go first.
So for me, I'll be brief and I'll let you go. But it's for us, it's shut up and ask questions. Like, get the call launched. Promise that you're going to share some really cool information about your company, and they didn't get on the phone just to answer questions, but to say, hey, listen, if you can inform us around these 6 or 8 key questions, we're going to be able to craft a better response back, a better proposal, a better demo, whatever it is we're going to go do. And then the floor is yours. We'll answer. And then ask the questions. Ask the heart, like, who are you? What do you do in the organization? Who else is involved in this decision?
Right.
I like to save the bad stuff to the end, because nobody wants to have their first question be, is this thing budgeted? Like, what are we talking about? Like, start with, like, if you didn't make a change, this is one of my favorite discovery call questions. If you didn't make a change to the way you're currently doing X, what happens in your business? And if the answer is sort of lukewarm, whatever, you're kind of going nowhere. If someone goes like, we fall down, I lose job, all kinds of bad things happen, now you've got something to go on with. But you're starting the process of getting somebody to do something different, to abandon what they've been doing with a product or a process or whatever, and going in a different direction. It's always great to know, like, hey, if you don't buy a new car, what happens? Well, this one's about to fall apart. I'm in trouble. Or, I got a brand new Audi. Mercedes is nice, but I can get to work. I'm good. I love that as part of the discovery process, like really trying to rip out that pain.
So, John, thank you for that layup, because I was going to talk about something bougie too. So, like, I wish your experience was like Saks. Like, I can't get a pair of 13 Gucci loafers anywhere right now, so I'm exhausted as a shopper. Right? I'm going to make a joke. McDonald's has the highest close rate in the industry. But when we talk about discovery, right, I think the most important thing to start off with first is, what is your, to your point, Sansi, what is your ideal customer, but what is your ideal average deal size, right? So I sell products and I sell services. And when I sell services, I generally sell products. But if I sell products, I don't necessarily generally sell services. So around my discovery questions, it depends on how well prepared, and this is the BDR, SDR function, how much of the preparation did I put in the customer's hands beforehand, right? So some sales reps, they don't want to talk to the person until they talk to them for the first time. one of my teasers is always, what do you need for us to have a meaningful conversation when I meet you? What information do you need that you don't have right now? I just send it. They don't always respond. But when they give it to me, John, to your point, I give them informed discussion. So my discovery questions are more along the lines of, where are you in your journey? So I sell high value consulting and transformation exercise programs, right? So we're going to hang out for 6, 12. Like, we have to want to work together with one another. So I need to understand your learning style, right? I need to understand your pet peeves. I also need to understand the partners that you're working with so I can understand what's in market for them, because that informs the offerings that I can give to you. So if you already have your software, my conversation changes. If you don't have software or services, my conversation changes. If you have nothing, right, I have to do my strategic consulting and advisory. So for me in discovery, the most important question to be very, very clear on, again, like I said, I'm software and services. I need to understand where my customer is in their journey. Have you done your due diligence? Do you have a realistic budget? Have you formulated the team? To John's point, is there anybody else who's a part of this conversation that needs to be here? And then I say, tell me where you are. And I'll give you just rudimentary examples. They're like, hey, Amal, we've already chosen our robots, but we don't have an IT team to help us set up the infrastructure. And guess what? Jeff doesn't call me back when he goes on fishing trips. I'm like, you probably need cloud, right? And so we're qualifying through the pain points of the last engagement. So John, here's one I use, I think that you'll like. Tell me about the last time you bought something like this at your company. Who was involved? How long did it take? And what was the benefit? How did you guys feel after the program ended? And like, I just sit back and here it comes, right? And I get my 17 bullets. And then I pause and I just say, I just want to get an idea of not only how you justify budget, but how you articulate success internally. So if it's an emotional pitch, an emotional buy, I'm going to be a little more fanciful when I tell my story. If it is like IT guys, is it pragmatic? Give me the FAQs, like show me the demos. Let me talk to your architect. I'm going to talk differently because they don't really like it when I turn on the style, right? They want more substance. So I'm selling to the person. I'm selling to the company in its journey. So if like my customers are Verizon, Cisco, and like massive ones like the ADP and others, right? The people who compete with them don't necessarily want to make decisions like they make because they know the difference in their budgets and their human resources and all these fun things. So I would say, point of caution in discovery calls, don't tell your customer how many other customers you have like them. Tell them about one of the pain points that you solved very specifically in a small bite-sized engagement, right? So when I talk to the customer, I say, this is typically how people get started with us that are at your stage of the journey. Let me know if this resonates with you. Have you considered infrastructure, platform, and then also who's going to be on your team, enablement, and then your initial engagement? Second part, when do you guys need to have ROI? Is it the current fiscal year or is it the following fiscal year? I would build a different program. And I'll tell you, my first mentor, and I loved it. I had never seen it before. This was 7 years ago. He did discovery so effectively, it turned into an SOW. And I go, shit, I don't know how to do that. Because back then, Amal couldn't do that because I only sold products. Now that I can do both, I try to do stylistic. And then sometimes I just get on the phone and I'm like, hey, you know what? People like us, we don't work together. We just don't, right? And that's where we have to be honest with ourselves. So I think if you know your best customers, you have to focus on them. The best customers usually have your highest total contract value, and then you tell them the story. So when you get one of them and they want to hear the story, I say, hey, this is what our first 18 months look like together, right? And then say, react to this for me. And they'll say to you, hey, Amal, you know what? If we do that, it's going to trigger an RFP exercise. I'm like, ooh, let's not do that. This version is that. So I love discovery. I really do. I don't want to give lip service to the stuff that precedes discovery. Like I'll pay up to, I think, probably $2,000 per call because that's how much it means to me. If I land one customer, I'm going to get 50x. So it's worth it to me for that investment. But if I come out of that and I don't get a nurture discussion, if I don't get a better understanding of the customer and how I can work with them around partners, or if I don't get into a pilot or something along these lines, I haven't failed. I just have to look at myself and say, should we be focusing on, insurance companies? Should we be, they might not be, like, for example, if your customer is in hospitality right now, they're getting destroyed. The airline industries is down 92%. Please do not commit your business development budget to servicing them because you're not going to have a good time. Now, guess who is in market right now? Really exciting. At least if you guys can serve them. We're really excited about healthcare systems and hospitals. Emmanuel, I spend a lot of time automating what you guys are doing, right? And I do it at the top 25 hospitals in the United States. I know they're in market, and I know that there are industry trends that are causing them to have to make buying decisions in the current budget cycle. I get really excited about those. If you want to talk to somebody at like power, deregulated power, oil and gas, I don't know, I might give it to one of my principals, if that makes sense.
Well, that was a fantastic point. Thank you so much for that. Now, Emmanuel, so kind of focusing on the customer again, what are some tactics or tips to really build trust with them? So are you giving them perks, keeping in touch with them, solving other pain points? Just from your experience, which have you found most effective?
Yeah, for us, I mean, John, Jamal, and Amiz, you guys have said amazing stuff, and I can just see the different. What we have used, what I've seen, is more of really listening to the customers, honestly, and just getting their story straight, because we don't want to start working with a customer that does not have a pain point that we want to solve, or the alignment is not there. So we really want to hear the story first and see the pain point, and then align on this is the pain point we actually want to solve. So the customer discovery for us actually is done by the market research. The market research folks, they actually dive into, talk to random people, doctors, nurses, any medical personnel, and then come back to us with some solid potential customers to actually follow. And then that's where the pre-sales team come in to really qualify those leads. So our tactic is usually more of a conversation based, honestly, face to face, really understanding where the potential customer are right now, where they want to go, and asking ourselves the various question: do we have the capability to actually solve that particular pain point? And if so, we go from there.
Okay, awesome. Now, kind of continuing a little bit, Emmanuel, have you experienced how the marketing strategy of the pre-sales team differs from that of the post-sales team? Is there a difference? Is it all uniform, or is there a transition and different strategy that you take?
Yeah, the marketing strategy for the pre is very different from the post, because the pre was trying to figure out a good narrative to get the potential client hooked on us. And after that, the narrative is much stronger. We know what the customer pain points are, and then we just tailor our pitch and try to get them on board as fast as possible. So just a simple answer is the pre is very kind of muddy. We're trying to mold that clay, and the post is like we have what we need, and then tailor our proposal and our pitch to get them on board, and hopefully to talk to the decision maker who can give us the green light to start working with them.
Fantastic. Now, Sansi, do you see that, or have you seen in your experience that is basically the same strategy for an early stage versus a later stage, or does that transition as revenue grows?
I'm not sure if it transitions, but what I will say is I'm not sure if this is different for early stage than more mature companies, but typically it is important to have an anchor message, something that you are championing, that you can be a bullhorn for, that your customers and prospects could be a bullhorn for, that's going to take them through the entire customer experience, not just prospects, but also when they become customers. And the reason why the anchoring message is so important is because when you are early stage, things can be pretty chaotic and you're evolving at a fast clip. If you don't have something to always call your customers back to, or even prospects back to, that reminds them and reminds you the common goal that you have, why it's important and why this problem is worth solving, then of course why your product is the one for them to use to solve it, then things can get very hairy. You'll lose the thread throughout that experience, because again, things can be pretty chaotic. You're just solidifying your processes, and sometimes you can get lost in that experience. So have an anchor message, make sure that you're continuously being a bullhorn for that anchor message throughout the entire experience, and know that it's okay to hold loosely to that. I know we make a lot of great plans that we intend to see through, and as things evolve, it's important to again hold it loosely, but at least have something that you're continuously championing, because that can be an important thing to continue to express as you're moving customers through that experience.
Okay, awesome. Now, John, how do you minimize the number of sales and pre-sales people you have for a deal, and what's the right number, and how do you decide that?
I'll answer the second question first. As few as possible.
Yeah. Yep.
if you think about the buyer's experience, so let's move away from sales and just talk about the buying experience. Unless you have an absolutely seamless handoff inside your organization, which, by the way, no one does all the time, the fewer the better, in my opinion. So if your salespeople can learn how to demo your product, and you only need to bring pre-sales in for that deep technical integration conversation or single sign-on or whatever it is that kind of gets a little over someone's head, all the better. Because, you know, to Amal's earlier comments, you know, people like having someone on the other end of that Zoom call who knows what the hell they're talking about, and they're not handing it off every time the question gets difficult. So I think a lot of technology buyers understand that we've all got BDRs and SDRs banging away, and they're going to have somebody reach out to them and it's going to get handed off. But you still want to make that as seamless as possible. We always have the BDR on the call when the AE accepts that call. So if there's any kind of confusion, they're there to hand that off. And again, on the flip side of the record, I like to have a smaller sales engineering team that is more specialized. One other thing I'll say about having great sales engineers, you want to keep them happy and motivated. Make sure you're only bringing them into qualified deals. My great friend Joe Feliski, when he and I worked together, and he was one of the best sales engineering managers that I've ever worked with, he was like, you want to keep my people happy, make sure they're working on deals that have got a high probability of closing. Don't waste their time. So that's another way to motivate people. But, you know, John, to your question, as few as you can, and structure it off that buyer's journey. If that buyer doesn't need a deep technical piece in order to come on board, hey, maybe you can save yourself a bunch of sales engineers. But you know, the easier you can make it for them to understand who the hell I'm talking to, the better.
Can I make two comments on this? I'm just applying it to some of the earlier stage companies, because I love your points, John. We have introduced this concept. It's probably not ours, but it's minimal viable people. And it's the idea of like, let's try to have as like, you know, a small group as possible on these calls. And the reason why is because we have to have clear swim lanes. And it's, again, it's likely not unique to early stage, it's probably stage, but when you are trying to divide and conquer and work as quickly as possible and time is against you, you cannot have groups of people on calls. We cannot have 4 or 5 koalas being represented on any specific sales call, because we have to choose a swim lane and we have to run towards what we feel like we're good at and trust that everyone else is doing what they feel they are good at. So minimal viable people, choosing your swim lane can be transformational, especially for younger companies with very, very small teams.
I love that. Love that.
So my final question, Amal, so once a deal's been closed, how do pre-sales teams work with customer success to ensure a high retention rate and you're not just churning out customers constantly?
All right, so let's just make it utopia, because I don't want to say depends, but like if I've done a good job, I don't have to go to a lot of follow-up meetings. You know, I just, you know, if my principals say, hey, you know what, Amal, this is clear, this is concise. So one of my again, this is probably not unique to my organization, but we record all of our meetings, we transcribe all of the meetings, and we debrief for feedback at the end of each call. So when I get to a certain stage, so my structure is different. I'll make fun of myself. People don't usually want to pay my rates. I don't think that's a reflection of my value as a human, but they're like, hey, this is great, Amal. Can I get the senior manager rate, not the partner rate? I don't take it personally. But a lot of times my job, and it's called stakeholder management. So it's external and it's internal. My job is to get the consultants from junior to senior, to get the senior managers to principal. Principals aren't making it to partner. We're going to make it really hard because we're a boys club. But no, kidding. When you look at the teams, if I don't empower my teams, especially the folks who have said, hey, Amal, I want to focus on chatbots, I want to focus on AI fabric, whatever their affinity is, if I don't empower them to lead the projects that are meaningful to their portfolio, end-to-end automation and EHR, right? If I don't do that, we're going to lose key talent, right? And we're going to have to pay a premium to attract that talent. So for me, as soon as I get some of the buzz, so like my role will change in about a week, and I'm going to be in charge of customer experience transformation, not just general transformation. Typically on finance and accounting and HR, but I'm going to be CX specifically. So all customer touch points. So when we hire folks, if I don't have conversations with infrastructure, the Avaya guys, the Cisco guys, whoever's selling the 8x8 guys, my chatbot folks are going to be like, hey guys, what's the work for me, right? I came here to do installations across, enterprise customers. That's actually what I'm really good at. So one, I have to build products that fit that. But two, when I'm scoping, hopefully I can uncover RPA plus. So RPA is data processing. Cognitive is OCR. So there's an attachment to the email. There's an invoice that needs to be processed. AI, which is my favorite, is which offer should go to which customer based upon how they interacted with us, or do they need to go to customer service? So the best way to be effective in the handoff is not to bring in the SEs to drive them nuts early. I have certificates that are technical, so I can cover most of that and I can demo. I send demo videos with the specific use cases so that the customer knows it, to kind of appease IT, so that we're not asking questions like, what's the infrastructure, what's the we're past that point. I would say the best part about handoff is you have the talent on the customer success side. It's one of your top 3 investment focuses. So me, it's customer experience, it's finance and accounting, and then it's going to be upsell and cross-sell to existing customers who have adopted robotics. If I do that, and those are the folks that are in the funnel, I'm bringing in the people that report to me at about the 90% stage, because they want context on what is and isn't in scope, not just for the initial engagement, but for the lifetime, for the first contract that we're going to have. So for my business, it's somewhat easy. Back in the day when I did SaaS, my first startup SaaS, we got acquired by Hootsuite, I was a mess. I got yelled at all the time by customer service, being like, "Come on, what did you sell them? How many streams did you after you sell something, right? The interrogation, the deposition commences. But as you become more mature, right, you understand exactly when to bring those resources in to be successful. So hopefully that helps. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, we're coming up on our 2-minute mark, John.
Well, that was the last of my questions. So unless any of you want to add some last minute comments or last minute pieces of advice for everybody in the audience, I think that we can conclude our session.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to get like a sentence or two, guys, on your biggest takeaway. I'm going to put you on the spot now.
I think Don has got a real shot at really being the permanent host of Jeopardy, because he was the host and stick handled it, because we wanted to go off and do a discovery conversation. You got us back on point here. Well done. You got a future.
Thank you so much. We can take Aaron Rodgers' spot on it.
If I can go next. Oh, you know what I love? I love the cadence in which we communicate. Like, John, I know you're a sales guy, man, and that's not even a slight. I know you do the damn thing. And you sound like the people that I talk to when I do customer transformation at large hospital systems. Like, your cadence mirrors theirs. Sansa, you're a rock star. I'm not going to praise you, but like, you're good at what you do, clearly. But I love that when we had this conversation, I didn't have to ask y'all what y'all did when you talked about it, right? I knew exactly what you did in your storytelling, and that's really, really awesome to see, firsthand as a participant.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this. John, you did an excellent job leading the panel, so thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And to our attendees out there, we do have one final session coming up for today in 15 minutes. It's your last sales session of the day, and also startup week, so you should probably just attend. But with that said, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.